Welcome, dreamers, to the realm where time whispers its forgotten truths and the stars still echo the ancient minds that once reached for them. Tonight, we drift, not toward war or empire, nor to kings or ruin, but into something quieter, a relic submerged in silence for 2,000 years, a machine to advance for its age, a secret cradled in rust and salt, the Antikythera Mechanism, an ancient device, built with precision the world would not see again for over a millennium. Not myth, but real, yet still cloaked in mystery. Who made it? What mind conceived such delicate gears in an age of marble and lyre? And why did it vanish from memory, swallowed by the sea and time alike? Before we embark on this journey through time's mysteries, if these ancient whispers resonate with your soul, let your presence be known through a gentle like, and join our circle of dreamers by subscribing to continue these nightly journeys into history's hidden realms. Share with us, fellow dreamers, from which corner of the world you're joining tonight's contemplation. Let the global community of history's mysteries connect across time zones as we drift together into the past. Close your eyes now, breathe deeply, and let the waters of the Aegean wash over your thoughts. You are weightless here, floating among broken statues and barnacled bronze, where time is forgotten, but wonder has not. Let us begin. Beneath the quiet surface of the Ionian Sea, where sunlight filters down in ghostly shafts, there lies a world undisturbed by breath or sound. Here, time lingers not as ticking seconds, but as the slow shifting of sand, as the quiet settling of silt on forgotten things. It was near the island of Antikythera, a jagged outcrop between Crete and the Peloponnese, that the sponge divers descended. The year was 1900. The modern world was racing into industry and electricity above, but here below, the ancient world still slept. The divers had come seeking the bounty of the sea natural sponges, simple gifts of the deep, but what they found was not soft or pliant. What they found was stone bronze statues shattered into dismembered grace, jaws sealed for 2,000 years. And deep within the tangle of broken amphorae and calcified timbers, they saw something strange, a disc, with teeth, a gear. And thus, the whispers began. The shipwreck, resting at a depth where the ocean still remembers, offered a clue not just to trade routes or cargo, but to knowledge long thought impossible. For this was no ordinary relic. The divers had stumbled upon the remains of an ancient Roman-era vessel, dating to around 70 BCE, its cargo destined for the opulent homes of the elite, or the sacred temples of forgotten gods, sculptures of heroic warriors, of goddesses, mosaics, coins, jewelry, all lay half-digested by the sea. But buried in that sediment, wrapped in corroded mystery, was something else. Not art, not gold, not power, but intellect, refined, mechanical, impossible. The Antikythera Mechanism. It was a puzzle, and not just for the scientists who studied it, but for history itself. For the mechanism, as it came to be called, was unlike anything else from the ancient world. No Greek vase, no Roman road, no Babylonian tablet could prepare the mind for what this device suggested, because it was, in essence, a computer, not electronic of course, not humming or digital, but a device of pure mechanics, gears within gears, interlocked in delicate harmony, designed to predict the movements of the heavens. Imagine a box no larger than a shoebox, with knobs to turn by hand, and dials that show the phases of the moon, the path of the sun, the timing of eclipses, the calendars of ancient peoples, even the date of the Olympic Games. It could track the positions of celestial bodies with astonishing precision, and yet it was made before the birth of modern physics, before Galileo ever lifted a lens to the sky. Crafted in an age when most assumed the earth was fixed, the stars immutable, and the gods inscrutable. This should not have been possible. And so, it became a paradox, a silent contradiction buried in coral. How could the ancient Greeks, brilliant though they were, have made this? And if they did, why was it lost? Why are there no others? No manuals, no copies, no tales of its use. What mind conceived it, and what silence buried it? To trace the birth of the mechanism, we must turn not to legends or kings, but to minds. Two thinkers whose thoughts stretched beyond stone and story, into the fabric of the cosmos. And one name rises from the dust more than any other. Archimedes, a mathematician, engineer, inventor, philosopher. Archimedes lived in the 3rd century BCE in the city of Syracuse, where the sun baked marble streets, and the sea glimmered with promise. He was said to have invented war machines to repel Roman invaders, but he also toyed with ideas that reached to the stars. According to ancient sources, Archimedes constructed devices that could simulate the motions of celestial spheres. Cicero, the Roman orator, described seeing such a machine, a model of the heavens, turning with breathtaking accuracy. Gears turned, planets moved, and the mysteries of time unfolded. Could the Antikythera Mechanism be a descendant of that knowledge, a lost link in a forgotten chain of genius? Was there once a tradition of gearwork astronomy, of scholars who saw in metal the order of the sky? Perhaps it began in Alexandria, where scrolls whispered with wisdom, and a library burned with oil and thought. Perhaps this device, found in the depths, was the last survivor of a tradition that had no name. Not magic, not myth, but knowledge, as sharp as any blade, and just as easily lost. Who, then, shaped the gears? Whose hands filed the teeth so fine that even modern eyes are astonished? For the Antikythera Mechanism was not the product of crude guesswork. Its creators were artisans of astronomical precision. Engineers who understood not only metal, but the celestial dance of moon and planet. Each gear had a purpose. Each pin and shaft obeyed a hidden logic, as if it were an orrery of time itself. The bronze gears, over 30 of them, and the surviving fragments fit together with an intimacy found more often in clockwork of the Renaissance than in the temples of Zeus. Some of the teeth were cut in a shape now known as epicyclic gearing, a design where gears rotate not only on their own axis but around each other, mimicking the motions of heavenly spheres as envisioned by Greek astronomers like Hipparchus or Apollo. To craft such precision would have required tools now lost to us, files thinner than reeds, compasses sharper than thorns, a steady hand and a knowledge passed, not through books, but through apprenticeship, through memory and quiet instruction. Perhaps the mechanism was not made by one man, but by a guild, a lineage of artisans hidden from history's gaze. Their names are not known. They did not carve them into the device. They let their knowledge speak through function, not signature. And so they vanished, not in catastrophe, but in silence, a silence more haunting than destruction. The mechanism did not survive whole. What we hold now is a relic fragmented by time and tide. Bronze, when swallowed by salt and darkness, begins to change. It blooms in strange greens and mineral crusts, until it no longer resembles the object it once was. Only careful eyes and patient hands could peel back the centuries. When it was first lifted from the wreck in 1901, the mechanism was misjudged. It looked like a lump of rock, fused with corroded metal. It wasn't until decades later, in 1951, that a British physicist named Derek de Solla Price looked closer, and what he saw was astonishing. X-rays revealed the teethy interlocking plates. The inscriptions etched in fading Greek, not prayers, not poetry, but instructions, celestial calculations, cycles, calendars. What seemed at first to be a broken thing was revealed to be a mind turned to metal. The sea had not erased, its purpose only obscured it. And so began the long and delicate resurrection of the Antikythera Mechanism. Not in the forge, but in the mind. Carved upon the surviving plates of the mechanism were faint, almost invisible letters, lines of Greek, too delicate for the naked eye, as if meant only for those who already knew their meaning. They spoke of cycles, the Metonic cycle, the Saros, the These were astronomical rhythms known to ancient skywatchers, measuring the dance between sun, moon, and stars. One cycle tracked the 19-year lunar pattern. Another predicted eclipses, when the Earth's shadow would swallow the moon, or the moon hide the face of the sun. And written in these tiny characters, less than 2 millimeters high, was the key to decoding the machine. This was no toy, no idle invention. It was a serious device built to model the cosmos in bronze, a mechanical cosmology, a tool for understanding the divine order of the heavens, or perhaps for navigating the tides of time. Who, then, was its owner? A priest, a philosopher, a traveler needing to know the skies above foreign ports? Or was it a gift meant for a king, or a library, or a ship destined for Rome? All that remains is the metal, the message, and the silence in between. Among the many dials reconstructed from the fragments, one in particular reveals the changing face of the moon, not just its phase, but the very illusion of its light. The mechanism was crafted to show how the moon waxes and wanes from sliver to fullness and back again. And even more curious, the device seems to have accounted for the moon's irregular orbit, a subtle, complex variation that causes the moon to move faster and slower across the sky. That such a detail was known and modeled mechanically speaks to an intelligence both observational and intuitive. The mechanism used a pin and slot design to create a variable motion, something no modern clock would attempt until 1,000 years later, as if the moon's mystery were not to be worshipped, but understood, as if the machine was not a mirror for man, but for the heavens. And so, it spun, quietly, patiently, until the ship that carried it sank beneath the waves, and there it waited. The Antikythera Mechanism did not simply mark time. It mapped the dance of the heavens. A dial on its face, now known as the front display, showed the positions of the sun and moon through the zodiac, that ancient ring of constellations passed down from Babylon to Greece, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, each house of the sky carved delicately into the device's frame, tracing a path not just of stars, but of meaning. The Greeks, like many ancient peoples, believed the heavens mirrored the world below, that to track the stars was to listen to fate's quiet breath. And here, cast in bronze and bound by gears, was that mirror made mechanical. The pointer would move across the dial, indicating which sign the sun passed through a cosmic calendar that did not just mark days, but symbol. What was the purpose of this zodiacal display? Was it for astrology, for navigation, for ritual, or did it serve a deeper purpose, to remind the observer of the harmony of the cosmos, of time as something circular, not linear, a wheel, not a line? As the device turned, so too did the heavens, and so too did the thoughts of those who watched. Turn the mechanism to its reverse, and more mysteries unfold. Two great dials once adorned Tabaxiapa tracking. The 19-year Metonic cycle and the lower the 223-month Saros cycle used to predict eclipses. The Greeks call the eclipse shadow the Draken, the dragon, an invisible serpent that devours the sun or moon, and the Antikythera Mechanism knew its path. Alongside the dial, small glyphs were etched, solar or lunar eclipse markers, detailing their type, magnitude, and even color. Imagine standing on the cliffs of Delos or Rhodes, holding this bronze oracle in your hands, turning the crank slowly, watching the gears click, until a pointer told you, an eclipse will come, the dragon returns. It would feel like prophecy, yet it was not divination. It was mathematics wrapped in myth. The dragon was not a beast in the sky, but the invisible nodes where lunar and solar paths crossed. Even so, the image lingered, a bronze eye watching the heavens from monsters made of shadow, and the device whispered their arrival. The Antikythera Mechanism held not one calendar, but several, a plurality of timekeeping woven into its gears. One was the Egyptian calendar, a solar reckoning of 365 days, no leap year, no correction. A calendar that marched forward in silent certainty. Another was the Greek lunisolar calendar, whose months followed the moon, but years followed the sun, a more complex, shifting rhythm. And still another function, the Olympia dial, marking the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games, the sacred festival of Zeus. To include this was not trivial. It meant the mechanism understood ritual time, as well as astronomical time. To the Greeks, these were not separate. Time was not merely hours and days. It was sacred cycles, festivals, moments of alignment between mortal and divine. And so this device's computer of old marked them all. It could tell you not just when to plant, but when to pray. Not just how the moon moved, but when the gods would watch. Time, in this machine, was holy. The ship that carried the mechanism was not a merchant's ordinary craft. Its cargo was too precious, its secrets too deep. It likely sailed from Rhodes or Pergamon, centers of Greek learning, where geometry and philosophy shed the same halls. Perhaps it was bound for Rome, a gift for a noble, or a prize collected by a Roman general who had looted the wisdom of the East. Or perhaps it was an offering, a treasure meant for a temple to be housed among columns in flame. But something went wrong. A storm, a miscalculation, a moment of hubris, and the ship sank. Its hull split open, and Fury's shattered statues tumbled into the dark, and with them, the Antikythera Mechanism was claimed by the sea, but not destroyed. Preserved, shielded in sediment, wrapped in time, waiting for the moment when it would return to light. The rediscovery of the mechanism was almost a matter of chance. In the year 1900, Greek sponge divers sought refuge from a storm in Dove near Antikythera. One diver descended and returned to the surface wide-eyed and silent. He spoke not of fish or coral, but of statues, of bronze men standing on the ocean floor, half buried in sand. Soon, a team was dispatched. Over months, they recovered wonders. Sculptures, glassware, marble, and what seemed to be a lump of corroded metal, ignored at first. But within that lump were the fragments of gears. In the silence of a museum storehouse, the mechanism waited until scholars looked deeper, and the whisper became a question. What is this? How could this exist? And why have we not seen its like before? The mechanism slumbered in shadows until a man with a curious mind began to listen to its silence. Derek de Sala Price, a physicist with the soul of a historian, was drawn to the fragments like a moth to ancient flame. He studied the corrosion, measured the teeth, held the bronze to light, and saw what others had missed. A system too intricate for chance. He proposed the unthinkable, that this object was a form of ancient computing, an analog device to predict celestial events with uncanny precision. In a world still reeling from the dawn of electronic computers, Price dared to suggest that the Greeks had once built a machine of comparable sophistication with no electricity, no silicon, no code, just gears, just minds, and hands that knew how to shape time. He published his findings, and the academic world hesitated. Could this really be, or was it romantic exaggeration? But the gears did not lie. And slowly, skepticism gave way to it. In the early 2000s, technology reached back through time. A team of researchers from Cardiff and London used advanced X-ray and imaging techniques to peer inside the mechanism's corroded heart. What they found confirmed Price's dreams and surpassed them. Dozens of gears, hundreds of teeth, multiple layers, stacked and interlocked, and inscriptions far more than previously imagined, etched along the surfaces like whispered instructions. Some spoke of planetary motions, others recorded cycles and names of months. They had been hidden for millennia inside a tomb of rust and silence. Now they returned. Layer by layer, the image was reconstructed. Like an ancient cathedral revealed beneath layers of soot, the mechanism's full shape emerged. A box, likely housed in wood, with dials on the front and back, a single crank, turned by hand. And within the stars, to build such a device was more than an act of engineering. It was a statement, a belief that the cosmos could be understood. The Greeks did not merely observe the heavens. They believed the universe had ordered logos, a reason behind the stars. To represent that harmony in gears was to affirm it. The Antikythera Mechanism, then, was not just a tool. It was a philosophy made metal, a quiet declaration that time is not chaos, but a pattern, that the sky's shifting light was not random, but divine geometry. Its gears were prayers of precision. Its dials were offerings to understanding. To hold it, even now, is to glimpse a world where knowledge and wonder were not separate things, where to turn a will was to touch the infinite. And yet, for all its knowledge, the mechanism did not reveal everything. There are no gears for Mercury or Venus, no visible modeling of retrograde motion. Mars does not rise and fall in its iron arc. Some believe parts are missing plates now lost to time or stolen by currents long ago. Others think it was unfinished, a prototype awaiting completion. Still others suggest the creators knew more than they dared inscribe, for what the mechanism emits may be as meaningful as what it displays. Perhaps there were secrets meant for the initiated. Perhaps the stars held knowledge that could not be spoken aloud. Or perhaps, like all human things, it was simply incomplete. A masterpiece begun and never finished. A whisper, not a declaration. A beginning. The mechanism is not flawless. Its teeth are not perfectly uniform. Its plates show signs of human error, slight shifts, inconsistencies in spacing, imperfections too small to notice, yet too large to ignore. And yet, that is what makes it real. It is not the work of a god, but of men, mortal hands guided by vision, by hope, by the desire to make sense of something larger than themselves. In these imperfections we see not failure, but soul. The soul of craftsmen who worked by lamplight, who cut bronze with care and guesswork, who imagined a universe so orderly that it could be carved in metal. Their flaws speak more loudly than their precision because they are human, and so are we. Historians now date the mechanism to between 150 and 100 BCE, a time of turmoil, of empires rising and falling, Rome expanding, Greece fracturing, philosophers fading into politicians. And amid this world, someone built a machine to remember the stars. It is a symbol of what might have been, had the knowledge survived. Would the Renaissance have come 1,000 years early? Would gears have replaced scrolls? Would Europe have spun time forward instead of backward? We cannot know. The mechanism marks not just a moment, but a possibility, a glimpse of a timeline that never came to be, a world where science bloomed not in spite of history, but within it, where understanding was never lost. There is no second Antikythera, no workshop filled with discarded gears, no written manual, no school bearing its teachings. It stands alone, a singular survivor of a lineage we never knew existed. Was it an anomaly, the solitary dream of a single genius, or the last echo of a fading tradition? One swept away by conquest, by fire, by neglect. In Pergamon and Alexandria, great minds once charted the heavens, but their works were scattered by war, their scrolls burned or buried. Perhaps once there were more machines stored in temples, tucked in ships, given as gifts to scholars and kings, but the sea is hungry, and history forgets what it does not protect. What we have now is not a school, but a tombstone, not a library, but a relic, a whisper of a lost language made from bronze. When the mechanism vanished into the sea, no one came looking. There were no records shouting its loss, no laments from philosophers, no letters crying out for its recovery. It simply disappeared. And in its place, centuries of silence. Greece bowed to Rome. Rome bent to time, and the gears stopped turning. What remained was myth and memory and stories that blurred genius with legend. The world moved on, but the stars still turned. The moon still waxed and waned, and beneath the water, a device waited. It did not rust away entirely. It did not fall into oblivion. It simply rested until minds once more were ready to hear its voice, until eyes were trained to see what had always been hidden. Today, we model the mechanism in code. We simulate its gears with algorithms, its dialis with screens, its crank with mouse clicks. We can print replicas, spin them in virtual space, and map their rotations with laser light. But even as we rebuild it, we do not possess it. We understand its function, but not its origin. We trace its mechanics, but not its lineage. Like a dream remembered after waking, it hovers on the edge of understanding, real and yet unreal. A bronze ghost, a message from minds who have thought in circles, who carved the heavens into wheels, and saw no divide between math and myth. To study the mechanism is to step outside time, to remember that even in ages of stone and fire, there were thinkers who touched the stars. The mechanism defies our sense of history. It arrives too early, it carries knowledge that should have been forgotten. It predicts techniques not seen again until the ticking clocks of medieval towers. And so we ask, who invented this? And why do we know nothing of them? Did their work vanish in fire? Were they silenced by empire? Or did they never write their names? Content to be remembered only by what they made. Perhaps the mechanism was not invented all at once. Perhaps it was the culmination of centuries, small steps, refined over generations. Each gear a page in a book written not with ink, but with bronze. If so, then we have lost the book, and only one torn page remains. Yet what a page it is! Enough to change how we see not just the past, but the very possibility of what the past could be. When we glance at a wristwatch, we do not think of ancient Greece. When we scroll through a calendar app, we do not hear the clack of ancient gears. But the lineage is there, hidden like roots beneath stone. The Antikythera Mechanism did not survive to influence technology, but it shows that the potential was always present, that somewhere, deep within human thought, lies the desire to shape time, to hold the sky in the hand, to make the future visible. Every modern machine bears a ghost of this dream, from satellites that track eclipses to programs that model planetary motion. But the mechanism reminds us that we did not begin with silicon. We began with wonder and bronze. There is something poetic about the way the mechanism moves, not in noise or spectacle, but in silence. Each gear placed not for beauty, and yet beautiful. Each tooth shaped not for metaphor, and yet a metaphor for thought. This is not a machine that dazzles with size, but with intent. Its elegance is not in power, but in purpose. It exists to measure what cannot be touched. Phases of light, cycles of shadow, whispers of distance. In that, it is more than a tool. It is a poem, a hymn to order, a melody written in metal, and like all true poems, its meaning lies as much in the space between lines as in the lines themselves. The sea forgets many things, names, holes, bones, but sometimes it remembers. The Antikythera Mechanism lay untouched for over 2,000 years, and yet it endured. Salt tried to eat it. Time tried to erase it. But the sea, in her way, preserved it. A hidden gallery beneath the waves, curated by coral and time. What other treasures wait beneath? What other minds lie sleeping? The ocean holds more than shipwrecks. It holds memory, and sometimes it gives it back. Not all at once, not clearly, but in fragments, in glimpses, enough to make us dream again. The Antikythera Mechanism sits now in a glass case in Athens, fragmented, fractured, yet more alive than ever. Scholars peer at it through lenses and scans. Tourists stand before it in quiet reverence. And still, it does not speak. It waits. Its dials no longer turn. Its crank is still. Its metal scarred by time and sea. But its presence is undeniable. It holds within its quiet form the tension between knowledge and forgetting, between what we build and what we lose, between stars and silence. This machine did not need to survive. Its odds were slim. Its fate nearly sealed. But somehow, by some mercy of the depths, it returned to remind us that wonder is older than war, that minds have always reached for meaning, that even in ages draped in myth and marble, the stars were measured and understood. Language is not always made of words. Sometimes it is carved in teeth and wheels, in ratios and pivots, in arcs and dials. The Antikythera Mechanism speaks such a language, one we are only beginning to translate. Its grammar is the movement of time. Its vocabulary is the cycle of moon and sun. Its sentences unfold in silent revolutions. To read it is to listen with the eyes, to feel the rhythm of the cosmos not through verse, but through precision. Imagine a mind so steeped in sky that it chose bronze over parchment, mechanics over metaphor, yet achieved poetry nonetheless. That is what we encounter when we behold this relic. Not a machine alone, but a message. What did they hope for, those who made the mechanism? Did they dream of praise, of discovery, of capturing the heavens in something small enough to carry? Perhaps they imagined it used in classrooms, in temples, in courts. Perhaps it was meant to inspire, to demonstrate that the cosmos was not unknowable, only unmeasured, and in doing so, they built a bridge between heaven and hand. We often speak of ancient poets and warriors, of philosophers and kings. But what of the engineers, the dreamers of function? Their legacy is quieter, more fragile, but in this device, it roars across time, a quiet kind of immortality. The mechanism is not just a relic, it is a loop, It reminds us that time does not always move forward in straight lines. Sometimes it folds. Sometimes knowledge lost is found again. Sometimes what lies ahead has already been behind us. We imagine history as progress, a ladder, always climbing. But the mechanism whispers otherwise, that there are moments when the stars were read with clarity, when machines mimicked the heavens, when understanding bloomed, then vanished, and returned, not as inheritance, but as each generation thinks it is the first to gaze upward in wonder. The mechanism tells us we are not. In the end, the Antikythera Mechanism is not about science alone. It is about wonder, the kind that pierces through centuries, the kind that survives shipwrecks and corrosion and forgetfulness, a signal across time, soft, persistent, like a heartbeat in the deep. And so, as we close this quiet journey, know that the mechanism is still turning, not in bronze, but in thought, in you, in the dream of order, in the wish to know, in the eternal return of wonder. And now, dear dreamer, our journey through ancient gears and celestial rhythms draws to a close. The sea grows quiet once more. The stars above drift in slow procession, and beneath them, in the hush between thought and sleep, the Antikythera Mechanism still turns. Not in bronze, but in memory. Let its silence echo in you, not as emptiness, but as invitation, to wonder, to seek, to dream. If this tale of lost wisdom and timeless mystery has stirred your soul, let your light be known through a gentle light, and join our circle of nocturnal seekers by subscribing to the Dreaming Historian. Each night we drift further into the hidden folds of history, not to be shocked but to be not to awaken but to sleep with the stars. Tell us, softly, from where in this wide, dreaming world you joined us tonight. Let the silent tapestry of time weave across oceans and time zones, uniting us in a single breath of curiosity and calm. Close your eyes now. Let the last echoes of bronze and starlight fade. There's nothing more to grasp, only to rest until we meet again in the quiet corners of history's forgotten dreams. Good night, sleep well, and dream deeply.